This is exactly what happens when you take the biggest star in professional wrestling and decide you don't need him anymore. Roman Reigns spent over 3 years carrying WWE on his back through the pandemic era and beyond, building the most successful storyline in modern wrestling history, and now he's being treated like some sort of nostalgic attraction rather than the main event talent he clearly still is. The company spent years building him as an unstoppable force, as the tribal chief who dominated everything in his path, and now they're booking him like he's already washed up. Wrestling veteran Disco Inferno criticized Reigns' booking, comparing it unfavorably to Brock Lesnar's tired formula where he just shows up at the end of broadcasts for run-ins. That comparison stings because it's accurate. The man who was once the centerpiece of every major storyline has been reduced to surprise appearances and sporadic matches. Reigns has wrestled only 6 matches in 2024 and just 3 matches through much of 2025, which is an absolutely ridiculous underutilization of someone who should be headlining premium live events every single month. The crown jewel loss to Bronson Reed perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with how WWE has handled Reigns since WrestleMania. This was his first singles defeat since losing to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, and instead of it being a monumental moment that shook the entire wrestling world, it felt like an afterthought. The loss happened with interference from Bron Breakker, and afterward Reigns told the Usos he didn't want to see them again until Christmas because he was frustrated that everyone believed he couldn't accomplish anything without help. That's character development, sure, but it's the wrong kind. They're taking someone who was booked as an unstoppable champion for over 1,000 days and turning him into someone who can't win clean anymore. The part-time schedule criticism is legitimate, no matter how much Reigns tries to deflect it. Reigns defended himself by calling himself a full-time cash cow and insisting that every second he's breathing, he's working, but that doesn't change the fact that he's barely on television. He admitted he's working a Brock Lesnar-style schedule, focusing on major shows and Saudi events while appearing sporadically on weekly television. That might work for someone in the twilight of their career, but Reigns is only turning 40 and should be in his absolute prime. The excuse about prioritizing family is understandable from a personal standpoint, but from a booking perspective, it's devastating to his momentum. What makes this even more frustrating is that WWE clearly needs Roman Reigns more than they're willing to admit. When Reigns returns to television, viewership consistently increases significantly, and his October return on Raw saw a noticeable boost in viewership after historically low numbers on SmackDown, headlined by Cody Rhodes. The data speaks for itself. Rhodes might be the current champion, but he doesn't move the needle the way Reigns does. Reigns was the second highest merchandise seller in WWE throughout 2024, only behind Rhodes, and topped sales in various individual months. Those aren't the numbers of someone who should be working 3 matches a year. The Bloodline storyline was lightning in a bottle, and WWE has completely failed to capitalize on it properly since Reigns lost the title. The story was so strong that it positively affected nearly every wrestler it touched, helped carry WWE to another boom period, and made historic revenue and attendance possible. Reigns was described as a tide that raised all ships, with stars like Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Solo Sikoa, and Jacob Fatu all being elevated through their association with the storyline. You had the hottest act in wrestling, and instead of keeping that momentum going, they've let it completely dissipate by having Reigns disappear for months at a time. WWE has struggled to find strong creative stories in 2025 compared to previous years, with a John Cena heel turn that hasn't hit as strongly as expected, and an abrupt end to Jey Uso's World Heavyweight Championship reign. The product feels directionless without a central storyline of the Bloodline's caliber, and the person who made that storyline work is sitting at home. That's inexcusable. The company is floundering creatively at the exact moment when they should be building on their previous success. The WrestleMania triple threat match against CM Punk and Seth Rollins should have been Reigns' triumphant return to the main event scene. Instead, Seth Rollins won the match after Paul Heyman betrayed both Reigns and Punk. That betrayal could have been the catalyst for compelling television, but instead, Reigns disappeared again for months. He wasn't expected at Backlash, with plans for him to return in early June, possibly for Money in the Bank. That's the problem right there. The hottest storyline in years gets neutered because the main character is only available sporadically. The scheduling situation has become so absurd that WrestlingNews.co reported that Reigns is officially regarded as a special attraction by WWE, on the same level as Brock Lesnar. Lesnar is a legitimate part-timer who appears a handful of times per year and collects massive paychecks. That worked for him because he was always positioned as this special attraction from another world. Reigns built his legacy on being the workhorse champion who carried the company through its darkest period. Reducing him to the same status as Lesnar fundamentally misunderstands what made him valuable in the first place. The character work since losing the title has been questionable at best. At SummerSlam, WWE showcased Reigns' evolution from self-centered tribal chief to someone who would sacrifice himself to save Jey Uso, showing character growth and appreciation for family. That's fine storytelling, but it doesn't address the fundamental problem that he's losing too much and appearing too infrequently. Character development means nothing if the character isn't on television regularly enough for the audience to stay invested. Critics will point to Reigns revealing in a Vanity Fair interview that his current contract expires after WrestleMania in 2026, and admitting he has probably another year or two maximum before transitioning to less physical entertainment. If that's true, then WWE should be treating these final years like they're precious, not wasting them with multi-month absences and losses to wrestlers like Bronson Reed. Reigns went from wrestling 52 matches in 2022 to just 11 in 2023 and 6 in 2024. That decline is staggering. The frustrating part is that everyone knows Roman Reigns is money. Reigns himself explained that WWE's booking strategy has transformed, moving from a hierarchical system where wrestlers were assigned roles to make main event stars look good to a more competitive Shark Tank environment. That's all well and good in theory, but when your biggest star barely appears and loses when he does show up, you're not creating competition, you're creating confusion about who actually matters. There's speculation that 2025 could be a turning point where Reigns doesn't hold any form of the World Championship for the first time in over a decade, with WWE potentially wanting to keep him away from the title picture to allow for a character reset. That might make sense if they were actually building towards something, but months of absence followed by a loss to Bronson Reed doesn't feel like strategic booking. It feels like they don't have a plan. The comparison to Rhodes is particularly galling. When Rhodes headlined SmackDown and ratings dropped, there seemed to be a rush to shield WWE's handpicked top star from criticism, even though promising storylines involving The Rock fell flat, and his WrestleMania match with a heel, John Cena, ended in disappointment. Rhodes is a good wrestler and a solid champion, but he hasn't proven he can consistently draw at Reigns' level. Rhodes' current title reign has featured short, disjointed programs without landing a breakout feud, since defeating Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. Meanwhile, Reigns created the longest and most compelling championship story in modern WWE history. The business metrics tell the real story. WWE is doing well financially, but that success was built on the foundation of the Bloodline era. The Bloodline saga, with Reigns and Paul Heyman at its center, helped carry WWE to historic revenue and attendance. You don't abandon what got you there just because you want to try something new. The new approach isn't working nearly as well, and everyone can see it. What WWE should be doing is building everything around Reigns while he's still available and willing to work. Instead, they're treating him like a nostalgia act they can trot out whenever ratings dip or they need a boost for a Saudi show. Reports indicated his return was on the horizon heading into SummerSlam, but that just reinforces the pattern of him being used as a band-aid rather than the foundation of the show. The loss to Bronson Reed is particularly egregious because it doesn't serve any larger narrative purpose. Reed is fine, but he's not someone who needed that win to establish himself. Reigns losing clean would have been one thing, but losing with Bron Breakker's interference just makes him look weak without elevating anyone in a meaningful way. That's the definition of wasted potential. WWE's booking decisions in 2025 have been baffling across the board, with several storylines suffering from not being furthered regularly and superstars being de-emphasized or benched. Reigns is the most high-profile victim of this scattershot approach. When your product lacks direction, you don't bench your most reliable star. You build everything around them and use their star power to elevate the rest of the roster. The saddest part is that this was all avoidable. Reigns didn't need to transition to a part-time schedule immediately after losing the title. The multi-year contract he signed in August 2022 included a reduced working schedule with participation primarily focused on major premium live events and Saudi shows. That contract might have made sense from WWE's financial perspective and Reigns' personal life, but from a creative standpoint, it's been a disaster. You can't maintain heat and momentum when you're only around for the biggest shows. The ultimate irony is that Reigns expressed frustration that his efforts to elevate others have gone unappreciated, despite contributing contributing to massive successes like WWE's Netflix deal and other billion-dollar partnerships. He's right to feel that way. He did the work, he carried the company, he made everyone around him better, and now he's being treated like he's expendable. WWE has convinced themselves they've moved beyond needing Roman Reigns as a centerpiece, but the numbers and the product quality suggest otherwise. They took the most successful act in modern wrestling and systematically dismantled it through poor booking decisions and a refusal to keep him on television regularly. He's not expected to win any WWE title in the near foreseeable future, which means they've essentially decided his time at the top is over despite him still being one of the biggest draws in the company. Every week that passes without Reigns on television is a week of lost momentum, lost storyline opportunities, and lost revenue. The fans still want to see him. The data proves it, but WWE has decided that protecting their new booking philosophy and accommodating Reigns' schedule is more important than capitalizing on one of the biggest stars they've ever created. That's not smart business. That's creative stubbornness masquerading as long-term planning. The wrestling business has always been about striking while the iron is hot, and WWE has let the iron cool completely. Roman Reigns should be main eventing premium live events, headlining international tours, and anchoring the most important storylines on television. Instead, he's making sporadic appearances, losing to mid-carders, and watching from home while the product struggles to find its footing. That's not how you treat a generational talent. That's how you waste one.